So if you chelate in the morning, then at night you want to drink your electrolytes. You want to drink your electrolytes or take tablets, and to remineralize your body. It's very important to do that.
That's a good point. Talk a little bit about L-acetylcysteine. This is a chelator, correct?
That's one of your really good, again, a strong antioxidant. N-acetylcysteine is a strong antioxidant, prevents oxidation in your body, prevents oxidation in the lens of your eyes. It's a good scavenger for free radicals that I know too, and actually most people they take this incorrectly because it only has N-acetylcysteine as well as other radical scavengers. They only have a 4 to 6 hour half-life. In other words, if you take it in the morning, you ingest this in the morning, then by noontime your body is very low in that again. So you really need to ingest that 3 times a day.
At meals?
Yeah, that's the easiest way, that you schedule yourself, like Susan Summers suggests, you schedule yourself to take them 3 times a day. You have a 20-minute a day time devoted to ingesting nutrients and hormones, and that's what her suggestion. And you do this 3 times a day, and you try to do it along with your meal, because then you remember you're ingesting food, so then you can ingest your various minerals and hormones and N-acetylcysteine 3 times a day. So you have a steady state level. You have a sufficient high level in your bloodstream 24 hours a day. And the same thing with DHEA, by the way. You don't want to be taking 50 milligrams of DHEA. That's the old think. That's what people thought 5-7 years ago, like you suggested. The best thing is to get the time-release DHEA. There's time-release DHEA, 10 milligrams, and you take that 2 or 3 times a day. So you take that, once in the morning, once at night. I happen to be taking it once at noon, also at lunchtime. So you have a more even, steady-state level of DHEA, all during the day and during the night, instead of overdosing yourself on 50 milligrams, and then before you take another dose, then your body has insufficient DHEA. And you see what I mean? I mean, it's very important to get a steady-state dose of some of these nutrients and hormones for more optimal health.
You talk about a very specific anti-glycating nutrient called aminoguanidine.
Yeah, aminoguanidine is the natural product, the natural solution to the drug metformin. Now, metformin is very important for diabetics or even suspected diabetics to take. They take their metformin, it sharpens their insulin receptors, is what it does. But if you don't like the drug product, metformin, the natural product that metformin was synthesized from is aminoguanidine. And so that this is more of a natural solution, and aminoguanidine would do essentially the same thing as metformin does, namely the sharpening of those insulin receptors, so you have better, more control over your pancreas and its release of insulin, more control of those insulin receptors. And there's a lot of people in this country that are not only diabetic or they're pre-diabetic. They eat a high sugar diet and they're pre-diabetic. And they're suffering from that. And of course, you want to lower your sugar intake, eliminate your sugar intake if you can, and then take the aminoguanidine or the metformin.
On page 47 of your book, this is at the time of your book, you said, I'm chronologically 63 years old, but biologically, I'm decades younger. Explain that. I thought that was a very profound statement.
Okay, I just had a colonoscopy. I'm 66 years old. I had a colonoscopy. The physicians, the nurses were surprised that I had blood pressure like a young person does, like a 20-something. My normal blood pressure is 117 over 67. And I remember doing a treadmill at a cardiologist a year ago, a routine treadmill where you're on the treadmill for 5 minutes, you rest for a minute. And after resting for a minute, my blood pressure was 128 over 60. And the cardiologists say that's impossible. That can't be right. He ordered his tech to retest me because nobody has 128 over 60 unless they're in their 20s or teens or something. And again, if you're balancing everything correctly with balanced hormones, balancing your diets, balance nutrients, like we discussed with the N-acetylcysteine, with coenzyme Q10, for example. If everything's balanced in your body will begin to respond like a 20-something. And another example of that I like to do forestry work. I have heavy boots, I have gloves, I have ladders, and I have assorted chainsaws. And I like to go out in my forest, stand on a 12-foot ladder with an 8-foot pole that has a chainsaw at the end, and I'll start trimming and cutting back judiciously the trees there. Well, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that unless I had a body of a younger person. There's no way I could do that. There's no way I could have the strength and the balance on the top of a 12-foot ladder to do that unless I were taking the proper hormones and supporting nutrients.
What about the people that say, look, doctor, this may be great, but it's not normal. It's not how humans are really intended to age. Talk about that.
Well, it's normal for you to die. After age 45, 100 years ago, people did die at an average age of 47 or 48. And in fact, those people, I present them with the interesting fact that there's 6.4 billion people on the planet, and the planet can really only sustain 2 to 3 billion people. So those who don't want to adopt and live longer, then I say that's fine.
I want to talk about CoQ10. This has really been recommended for many, many, many years. But I think that in your book, when you talk about, for those people that have to choose between a standard vitamin and CoQ10, go with CoQ10. Talk about why.
Well, CoQ10, that's your critical nutrient for the heart and for cardiovascular. And some of the more forward-thinking cardiologists, like Stephen Sinatra, no relation to Frank Sinatra, Dr. Stephen Sinatra, have been promoting CoQ10 for the last 15 years. And this is your primary heart nutrient. In fact, CoQ10, if you take from a slaughterhouse, if you take a beef heart from a slaughterhouse and you press it with your hands, then it'll ooze out of that an orange viscous liquid, and that's the CoQ10 from the heart, because the heart is dependent upon CoQ10 to function properly, and especially people taking statin drugs, and there's a lot of people these days taking statin drugs, they get depleted with CoQ10, and Merck, the big drug company Merck, has known about this since two internal reports, 1999, and yet they haven't encouraged their patients to take CoQ10, but everybody on statin drugs needs to take CoQ10. Everybody with cardiovascular problems needs to take CoQ10. But actually, in the last 2 years, I've recommended there's even a better form of CoQ10.
Quercetin?
And that's ubiquinol. Ubiquinol. CoQ10 is just a popular name for ubiquinome, but the more advanced form of that is ubiquinol. Ubiquinol, you need 100 milligrams a day. CoQ10 or ubiquinome, you need 400 milligrams a day.
It's interesting how each year the sophistication and the precision gets better and better in terms of knowledge.
Medical science is doubling every 6 years, and very few people can keep up with what's happening out there. And a lot of physicians, they're working hard in their practice, but often they're operating on knowledge and maybe it's 10 or 20 years old.
What do you think people should do with regard to the radiation leaks at Fukushima and also now in the Midwest, that nuclear plant? I know that you speak a little bit about radioprotective nutrients, and we should be taking it. What are you thinking about?
I'm just in the process of publishing a paper on that subject that will be available in another month or two on anti-aging motivate.com, and it's about radiation and nutrient protection, and where I'm taking, where I advise taking radioprotective nutrients. One of them you already mentioned, N-acetylcarnosine, you should be taking that, and you should be taking iodine, but only low dose iodine, not the 12.5 milligrams. Take a couple milligrams a day of iodine. That's all you need. And I think you need that too, because you are going to. And I would think one thing I would avoid is milk products, because some of the milk products in the atmosphere, there's radioactive strontium. And the radioactive strontium, through the rainfall, the cows are absorbing it. It gets in the milk supply, and the strontium is being picked up and carried in your calcium to your bones,